Madison College, many of our students come underprepared for college, whether it's underprepared in math or reading or writing. Many students also, it's their first experience in higher education. And so in academic advancement, we provide support for all students who come to the college who need a little bit of support or help in math or reading or writing, and to help them give a firm foundation for their college start. In our area, we provide developmental education, sometimes referred to as remediation. So a few years ago, we were looking at how well we were doing with our developmental education. How well were students succeeding at the college? Were they making it through courses? Were they making it on to their next course in sequence? And were they getting certificates or degrees or successfully transitioning to their next college? And we found that many of our students were not succeeding. In fact, most of our students who started one or two levels down in developmental education were not reaching their goals. So we started looking at models that had more success in the country, and about 7 years ago we developed what we call our bridge programs. Our bridge programs provided intensified support or greater support for students in their reading, writing, math. But how it differed than what we had been doing in the past is that bridge programs have curriculum that's contextualized around the student's occupational goal, and where the developmental education teachers are working side by side with the occupational faculty and arts and sciences faculty to create a learning or our teaching team that's going to better support students. In addition, our bridge programs included what we call a transition specialist. It was a newer position to the college where it wasn't just advising, it was advising plus providing additional case management and wraparound support for students. These students are often first generation low income students, and it's really their first experience in college, which makes these students much more less likely to be successful without additional support. Once these students get additional support, we've found that the combination of the contextualized instruction towards their occupational goals, plus that increased support through advising and other services at the college, students were achieving at very high rates. And all of our bridge programs, the success rate it moved from between 6 to 15% to somewhere between 50 to 80%, depending on the program. That level of success was very exciting for the college, definitely affirming for the School of Academic Advancement that we're on the right track towards making improvement in our developmental education model. Our challenge is that our bridge program was only serving a small number of our students at our college. It was serving hundreds of students and not the thousands that potentially we could be serving through this approach. So after looking at options of how we could expand this type of approach for students who need developmental education at Madison College, we created the sector approach. The sector approach is a universal design where we're going to be working with students throughout the college in 5 sectors that are going to increase students' capacity to be successful regardless of where they start.
Why is the School of Academic Advancement making this change? Why are we putting so much time, energy, effort, and resources into reimagining developmental education? And really it comes down to one factor, and that factor is student success. Traditional developmental education is not working for our students. When we look at how students fare at Madison College who start in developmental education courses, the statistics are shocking. This graphic illustrates the leaks in student retention and success for developmental education students. Here you can see that in the year 2015-16, there were 265 students who started in the Math Concepts course at Madison College. Of those 265, 144 passed Math Concepts with a C or better. Then 111 went on to take basic algebra. 82 of them passed basic algebra with a C or better. Then 66 of those students took a college-level math course towards a program. 44 of those students passed that college-level math class, and at the bottom you can see that only 16 students, or about 6% of the original 265 students, ever earned a credential from Madison College. Likewise, when looking at students who place into academic writing, there's a very similar story. In the academic year 2015-16, there were 123 students who placed into academic writing 3 and 4. And of the original 123 students, 6 actually ever earned a credential from Madison College, or about 5% of the original total students. Another statistic that we looked at was the breakdown of programs of the students who were enrolled in developmental education courses. What we saw was very interesting. When looking at the data from 2017-18 and 2018-19, we saw that anywhere between 25% to 30% of students were undeclared, meaning that the students were not connected to a program of study. In our new developmental education structure, our courses will align with the areas of study. Further, the transition advisors in the School of Academic Advancement will help students identify or confirm their career goals, resulting in a higher number of students accessing career pathways and being admitted into college programs of study. We hope to reduce significantly the number of undeclared students enrolling in developmental education courses.
Okay, over the course of a few years, beginning in about 2013, we applied for and were awarded a number of state grants. These grants gave us the opportunity to create and develop innovative approaches to instructing students who were interested in pursuing associate degrees in high-demand fields. We implemented these creative ideas, we acquired feedback from students and program instructors, we made adjustments, and we collected data. And we found overwhelming success. Therefore, we knew we were onto something. The program areas that we focused on for these grants included manufacturing, construction, biotechnology, administrative professional, medical administrative specialist, hospitality, culinary arts, and optometric tech. Some of the aspects of the success of the bridges included the 4 C's: contextualize instruction while building basic skills, cohort formation, which built strong relationships among students, collaborative efforts with developmental ed instructors and program instructors, and coordinated support between instructors and transition specialists. Additionally, we also provided embedded support, where a dev ed instructor supported students in the classroom of a program course. We also provided student success courses to teach study skills, exam prep, and to further assist students in their rigorous curriculum. 2 years ago, we applied for an innovation grant and were awarded it. This gave us the opportunity to take everything we learned from the success of the bridges and incorporate it into a new look for developmental ed. We also incorporated a 5th C, compression. This gave us the opportunity to have 2 levels of developmental ed students doing their dev ed coursework in 1 semester. What's different about this is the students who are testing at an intermediate level will also be taking a student success class to help them complete their dev ed in 1 semester.
When comparing the success of students in bridge programs to the success of students in traditional developmental education courses, the difference is substantial. This graphic shows students who enrolled in the Manufacturing Bridge program over a 6-year period between 2013 and 2019. 272 out of 298 students, or about 91.3%, successfully finished the 48-hour bridge course. Of those 272 students, 238 of them completed degree courses the same semester. And finally, on the right-hand side, you can see the different credentials earned by the students in the manufacturing bridge program. In total, there were 180 students out of the initial 298 that earned a credential from Madison College, resulting in about 60.4% of students earning a credential. Further, there are still students enrolled to this day that are on the path to earning a credential, so we expect that number to grow higher.
In addition to the increased success that we've seen from students coming out of developmental education, we've also seen a large amount of interest generated in the programs that we're linking to. With the creation of the Biotech Bridge in 2017, the number of applicants nearly doubled from the previous year. With the introduction of the Construction Bridge, the amount of applicants went up by about 50%, and with the invention of the Manufacturing Bridge in 2013, the number of applicants went up by about 100. We've also seen an increase in the amount of diversity within the programs. In biotech, the number of minority applicants nearly tripled. In construction, the number of minority applicants nearly doubled. And in industrial maintenance, the number of students of color applying to the program more than doubled. But what is it like actually being in a bridge? We asked Alejandra about her experience.
Hi everybody, my name is Alejandra Bridges and I was part of the Bridge program for the Culinary Art program. And I really glad that I was part of the Bridge program because I received the support I really need. I was able to understand better about all the content for the classes, and also Stephanie, who actually was leading the Bridge program for that program. She was helping us and giving us all the support that we need. We have the Bridge program for food theory, who is a really important class, and also sanitation. So those classes are really, really important to continue in the program. It was a really challenging time for us who actually were part of the Bridge program. So every class that we have was really helpful because we went through the content, and we do different activities and helping us to remember and also get a better result in our tests. So I'm really glad I was able to be part of the program, and I would totally recommend it, so go Bridge. I would like to add, because we start in August, so we start before the class start. So by the time we start the Bridge, we were pretty much one step ahead to everybody. So that was something that helped us to go into the school and be more comfortable and not be too stressful.
How do we take all of the success from the bridges and scale it across Madison College to all the different certificates, diplomas, and degrees? The answer is sectors.
Hi, my name's Sector Steve. My colleagues gave me that nickname because I took Chris's original idea of contextualizing all curriculum and sorting that into specific sectors. I looked at every single class and every single admission requirement of all 198 of Madison College's degrees, technical diplomas, and certificates. Based on the overlapping skills and first semester classes, I was able to categorize all our programs into 5 sectors: applied tech, arts, business, health, service, liberal arts transfer, and discrete.
That's 7.
Cut. Go back to the diagram.
There are 5 sectors that have contextualized curricula. Liberal arts will not be contextualized as those students are taking a broad spectrum of general education classes. Also, the programs and certificates labeled as discrete do not have any prerequisites that the School of Academic Advancement has classes for. All of our sectors align with the areas of study. The 11 areas of study is a project college-wide that allows students to proclaim a general major rather than picking a specific program. So for example, a student could apply to the program of health sciences rather than having to pick between being a CNA, a medical assistant, or a registered nurse. This gives students the benefit of being able to remain undecided somewhat, yet they can still receive financial aid. Now let's look at how the programs and the areas of study fit within our sectors. Our first sector that we're looking at is the applied technology or the trade sector. These are programs that you use your hands for. So for example, you need to be skilled with hydraulics, agriculture, welding, construction, electronics, and systems. There's also a strong emphasis on safety. Students who have applied to the areas of study of architecture and engineering, construction, manufacturing and maintenance, and transportation would all want to take the applied technology sector classes if they did not test into their program classes. The arts sector, of course, deals with our programs that require artistic ability and design. Students who are in the arts, design, and humanities area of study would be in the arts sector first. Our next sector, the business sector, is a very large sector. It includes all of the IT classes, finance, management, and marketing classes. It also includes the areas of study, business, and information technology. The health sector we also anticipate to be one of our larger sectors. It deals with chemistry, biology, anatomy, and many of these programs require petitioning. They include the areas of study in health sciences and science, math, and natural resources. Our service sector deals with helping people. It includes the areas of study of education and social sciences, also law, protective, and human services. You may have noticed that we didn't mention the 11th area of study, culinary, hospitality, and fitness. This is because it didn't exactly fit into our sector model. So what we decided to do was we split it up. We split it into culinary, which goes into the arts program. After all, arts is in the name. Hospitality, which goes into the business program since they need to know a lot of different business skills and computer skills. And wellness will go into the service sector since they will actively be helping people, the same as early childhood educators or policemen or firemen. And in liberal arts, students are studying a wide variety of general education classes. They never really focus on one specific set of skills. The liberal arts sector includes those who are transferring, as well as ethnic studies, gender and women's studies, global studies, journalism, and Spanish language proficiency. The last sector is the discrete sector. These are programs and primarily certificates that are very short and do not have any reading, writing, or math requirements, and therefore students do not need to go through developmental ed in order to get into these classes. Anytime I mention these programs in meetings, no one seems to care. So now that you know about the different programs, what does a student's path look like going through the sector? You can see that we split our students in 3 skill levels: beginner, intermediate, and advanced. First, our beginner students are below a 4th grade level, or perhaps they're going through ESL. If a student tests into reading or writing at this level, then you should just call SAW. We have a variety of different classes that they can take, including Reading 2, Writing 2, Reading 3, Writing 3. We can work with other organizations to help them build up their reading and writing abilities. And if they test into the lowest level for math, they take a math fundamentals class. This math class we anticipate to be rolling enrollment, and it will start with things as simple as adding and subtracting numbers. Once students either complete the beginner level or test into the intermediate level, then the students are eligible to go into a sector. The intermediate level is the old 3-4 level, or the math concepts level. All these students will take a sector class as well as a required support class as a co-requisite. The support class cannot be taken on its own, and it is not financial aid eligible. The sector classes are financial aid eligible. Students testing into the advanced area, which is the old 5-6 level or the basic algebra level, students testing into this level at reading and writing will either take the communications sector or ALP. Students testing into this level in math will either take the math sector or AMP. They are not required to take a support class, although they can attend the support class if they choose to. We'll learn more about ALP and AMP later on. A very exciting thing to note is that anyone who tests into the intermediate or advanced level can go directly into their program classes in just one semester. Let's face it, the old systems were a mess. Classes conflicted with each other. Often the classes that students needed were at the wrong campuses. Sometimes students would get ahead in reading, but behind in writing, and then they'd have to catch up to each other. And sometimes students even took 4 or 5 semesters just to get through everything. Starting in the fall, it will be much simpler. The academic readings and writings will no longer be offered, as well as the math concepts and basic algebras. Everything will be replaced by sector classes, which are offered in blocks at the same campuses with times that are constructed to fit together. Whenever you're advising students about the new sector model, don't worry. There's lots of supports and reminders to help you. The testing center will be giving them individualized placement sheets with all the information that you need. Notice that the reading and writing classes are taken as a co-requisite. And for students testing at the intermediate level, they actually sign up for 3 classes: reading, writing, and the support class. And the same for students who test into the intermediate level for math. Notice that there's a reminder to sign them up for both the math prep and the support. If you can't remember what programs go into which area of study or what programs go into which sector, you don't need to. The backside of this sheet has all of the programs listed within the sector. Or feel free to call our department at any time. Under the old bridge model, students were not only helped before they entered their program classes, but also after they enter their program classes. We plan on continuing that and expanding it in the form of a Student Success Lab or an Emporium.
Student Success Lab is going to be a place for students to work and to complete work, to build background knowledge for a lot of different courses. One group of students that will be found in the Student Success Lab are students that are currently enrolled in a sector course, either sector communication or sector mathematics, and students can receive help in those courses. The other group of students are students who are taking credit courses. So for example, a student in applied technology might be taking a drawing interpretation class and need help on that specific homework. And that kind of help probably isn't available in the Student Achievement Center. So in the Student Success Lab, a student would be able to get help on that sort of specific class that's a program class. Other students might come to the Student Success Lab to work on homework for written comm or math reasoning, courses that are not in their programs per se, but are programs that meet requirements that students need to meet for their programs, for their credentials. So both students in non-credit courses and students in credit courses can access the help in the Success Labs. Who will be the instructors in the Success Lab? We envision that there will be instructors from the School of Academic Advancement and also instructors from the programs. The School of Academic Advancement instructors will be people who are knowledgeable in program courses. So for example, it is our goal that an instructor working in the Applied Technology Student Success Lab would be somebody who spent time in drawing interpretation, spent time in DC-AC circuits. So they're instructors who don't teach the courses but who have supported the courses in the past, know the content material for those courses. We're working with our partners in the program side of the house to make that part of service work for instructors in programs. It's really kind of built on the model that's used right now in the Business and Accounting Lab, where there are instructors from the program who work in there, but there are also lab coordinators that are kind of full-time there. So we're trying to create a collaborative project with faculty from program and from School of Academic Advancement to work together to support students. It's still a work in progress. We have a vision for what we want it to be. The ultimate goal is to retain students, that we know that when we do a great job in that first semester of students getting them started on their path, that we don't want to lose them during the second and third semester. So the goal is a long-term goal of keeping students in their programs. And our thought is that when students can come back and work with teachers who are knowledgeable of what they've done in their developmental ed courses, instructors who are knowledgeable in the program areas, and instructors with whom they already have some personal connections, they're more likely to stay with their programs, to be retained, and then to complete their programs.
So now that we have all the information for program students who know what they're doing, what about undecided students or students who don't know which sector to go into? Well, we can help guide them with the launch into MATC. All students scoring in college prep classes will be enrolled in a short orientation course. The course familiarizes them with all aspects of starting college, as well as helping them to identify a sector of study. They can log into their Blackboard site to complete the launch activities. They must complete the launch orientation before the first day of their sector classes. The launch will assist them with applying to a program, registering for classes, academic information, career exploration, financial aid, and college resources. All students should be automatically enrolled within 1 week of taking their AccuPlacer test or submitting their HCT scores. For students who have trouble with the online orientations, we offer many in-person sessions to help them through. In-person sessions are offered every couple weeks, increasing with the approach of the semester, and students can get connected to college resources early. We also hope to significantly reduce the amount of undecided and undeclared students in developmental education. This is also a precursor to EAB, which is going to make an orientation course for all students attending college, not just students who need developmental education.
AMP stands for the Accelerated Math Pathway. So it's a combination of the basic algebra math and the elementary algebra. But it's presented more as elementary algebra with the support skills from basic algebra along the way. The student sees the same teacher for class periods at 75 minutes each. And so that's different than ELP, and ELP stands for the Accelerated Language Pathway. And with that course, we've got 12 English 1 students and 12 Writing 5-6 students in the same classroom. They're seeing their teacher for English 1, and then just the students that need those support skills would stick around for an additional class period. Our liberal arts transfer students should be taking AMP if they need the algebra sequence. So those students who might need math reasoning instead, and that's our arts and humanities liberal arts transfer students, they wouldn't want to take AMP. It would just be too much algebra. But we also have many sector students, so our program students, that would be better served with AMP because they may be seeking a 4-year degree in the future. So AMP is a good option for those sector students who are looking to take intermediate algebra. One thing to know about AMP though, it is not contextualized like our other sector, like the sector courses that are support courses for the programs. Students who would like to take Math of Finance could take AMP because it really builds their algebra skill, especially if they are seeking a 4-year degree in the future because they would need to go through the algebra sequence anyway. So one route to Math of Finance is to go Math of Business Apps and then Math of Finance, but you could also go through AMP, which would develop more algebra skill. Who should take ALP? Of course, our students who are seeking a 4-year degree, so they may be program students but have a 4-year degree on their mind, and they did not place high enough to take English 1. But we're also looking for the students that have higher reading scores and lower writing scores. So if by taking ALP, they would be in an English 1 class, and then they're receiving support after that class with those reading and writing skills to bring them up to par. I believe makes AMP so successful is that I do get to see the students for 75 minutes, and a big portion of that class, or at least 30 minutes of that class, is them working on the skills that was presented in class, but also they can be working with a partner, and so they're making mistakes right in front of me before they walk out of the room to try their homework at home. So that's where those just-in-time basic skills are provided, is really during that work time in the classroom. We have found that in our first 2 semesters of offering AMP that our success rates for AMP are just as high as our standalone elementary algebra class. So students are taking basic algebra and elementary algebra in the same semester, and we have similar success rates to a standalone elementary algebra class, which is amazing because we've got lower level students finishing 2 semesters of work in 1 semester.
With all of these new changes, don't get rid of your old placement sheets just yet. Remember that the sectors are being implemented in the metro campuses in fall of 2020. That means that for summer, we will still be using those old placement sheets, and students might be trying to sneak in a basic algebra or a reading 5-6 class before their fall semester. Also, the sector classes will not be implemented in the regional campuses due to lower enrollments. The regional campuses will have a much smaller offering. If you need any help with advising students or placing students into classes, feel free to give me a call at any time or send me an email. Remember that we're always here to answer your questions, so you won't get left out in the cold.
Take the sector first. Take the sector first. Take the sector first.
Well, actually, you'd be better off with ALP or AMP. Oh, you didn't score high enough for ALP or AMP.
Take the sector first. Take the sector first.